You probably think greatest of all time is just the player with the biggest numbers. But watch what happens when we change just one definition. What counts? On the screen, the list reshuffles. Same sport, same players, different ledger. Because football isn't one math problem, it's a series of different worlds. Today we're building the GOAT algorithm. Define the ledger, map the era, then run an inflation adjustment so we can compare dominance across time.
Before we compare players, we have to compare the rules they played by. And the first variable is the most controversial. Which matches count toward a goal total in the first place? There isn't one universal ledger. Modern record-keeping usually separates competitive matches from friendlies and exhibitions, and different databases draw that line differently. So in our model, we'll track both, competitive only and all senior matches.
That's why Pele becomes the ultimate math problem. In competitive-only counts, he lands in the mid-700s. But if you include the tour matches and high-profile friendlies from that era, his total jumps to over 1,200. Same player, two different worlds.
And it's not just about counting. It's about the environment. A goal in 2024 isn't automatically worth the same as a goal in 1990, because the scoring baseline shifts. Take the 2023-24 Premier League. 1,246 goals, 3.28 per match, its highest ever average. More time played and more chances add up, and you can see it in the spike.
Exactly. Time is a stat multiplier. At the 2022 World Cup, FIFA told referees to add back lost time more aggressively, pushing actual playing time to roughly 59 minutes. Stretch the clock and you stretch the stat sheet. So we can't just count trophies and totals. We have to normalise the world they played in. Now we start the calculation, back in an era of heavy conditions and muddy pitches, when the red card existed as a punishment, but not yet as a literal card in the referee's hand.
Welcome to the Environment Lab. Before we count goals, we have to price in the era's difficulty tax. See those sliders on the dashboard? Ball, pitch, protection?
So we aren't just looking at stats. We're looking at the physics of the world they played in.
Exactly. Start with equipment. There's a persistent myth that old leather balls doubled in weight when wet.
I've heard that. Is it true?
Not in controlled testing. A peer-reviewed 2025 sports engineering study used historically representative balls and found no evidence of the ball literally doubling in mass. But it can still get dramatically heavier. In the most extreme case they tested, an uncoated, laced leather ball, mass increased by up to about 55.8%. That's not trivia. That changes how hard it feels off the head and foot.
So heading a ball in the rain was like heading a brick.
Not a brick, but heavier, slicker, and less predictable. And honestly, the bigger variable wasn't the ball. It was the ground beneath their feet. Modern pitches play like carpets. A lot of historical pitches, like the muddy field on screen, played like chaos. That adds noise to every touch, every dribble, every bounce.
It's hard to be consistent when the ball doesn't bounce straight.
And if you got hurt in that chaos, you were in trouble. Substitutions weren't allowed at the FIFA World Cup until Mexico 1970. No reset button.
Wait, so before 1970, if a player went down and couldn't continue, the team just played with 10?
In practice, yes. Either you stayed on injured or your team played short. Which brings us to our first case file, Pele in 1966.
The tournament where Brazil got knocked out early.
In that 1966 group, Bulgaria, then Portugal, Pele took heavy contact. Against Portugal, a notorious challenge left him limping, and with no substitutions, he either had to hobble on or Brazil played a man down.
And the referees didn't stop it.
They didn't have today's standardized signals and escalation. Yellow and red cards were introduced at the 1970 World Cup. Before that, control was far murkier.
So defenders could keep hacking away without a clear, visible warning.
The boundaries existed, but enforcement looked very different. Which leads to the ultimate example of surviving a hostile environment: Diego Maradona.
Maradona is famous for his dribbling, but you're looking at his bruise count.
I'm looking at the foul tax. In the 1986 World Cup alone, official tournament data credits him with drawing a record 53 fouls.
53 times in one tournament.
Yes, single tournament record. And across 4 World Cups, he drew 152 fouls. When that counter hits 53 on screen, that's the environment you're adjusting for. He wasn't just creating chances, he was absorbing contact over and over, and still dictating the game.
So when we compare his stats to a modern player, we have to adjust for that resistance.
Correct. For this era, the environment tax is high. Heavier balls in bad weather, unpredictable pitches, fewer in-game safeguards, and far less relief when injuries hit.
They played a harder version of the game.
Physically, yes. But as we'll see next, on that split screen, modern football trades blunt force brutality for speed, structure, and mental overload. We're leaving the mud behind and entering the machine age. On screen, those 3 sliders, density, intensity, volume, are the variables modern greatness has to survive.
Wait, isn't the modern game easier? The pitches are carpets, the balls are perfect spheres, and attackers get more protection, plus VAR.
The surfaces are better, yes, but the constraints are tighter. Modern difficulty isn't mud, it's time and space. Look at the 2022 World Cup benchmarks on that panel. Teams averaged about 108 kilometers per match, and around 2.3 kilometers of that was sprinting above 25 kilometers per hour.
So you don't get time to breathe, let alone think.
Exactly. That's tactical density. Pressing now isn't one guy chasing you, it's a coordinated trap. See the arrows collapsing and that sub-1 second countdown? Coaches and technical observers describe presses so aggressive that players don't have time to think. You're not beating a defender anymore, you're beating a shape.
But surely the stats are inflated. We still see 50-goal seasons at the very top. Is that just because they play more games?
That's the third variable: volume. The calendar has swollen. Champions League moved to an 8-match league phase, and FIFA's 32-team Club World Cup arrived in June to July 2025. The schedule is a stack you have to keep climbing.
So the machine demands you sprint more, think faster, and play twice a week for 15 years. Who survives that?
2 anomalies. First, Lionel Messi. In this era, his dominance is precision under density. Even after leading Inter Miami to an MLS Cup in December 2025 and closing in on 900 senior goals, it's not just volume, it's efficiency. He finds the one green lane through the block.
And the other anomaly?
Cristiano Ronaldo. His dominance is output under volume. He's the all-time leading Champions League scorer, and he's the men's record holder for international goals. While the machine sped up, he turned repetition into a weapon. Same movements, same finishing, year after year.
So when we run the final calculation, we aren't just asking who scored the most. We're asking who dominated the most demanding operating system football has ever run. So we've crunched the numbers, adjusted for mud, and normalized for pressing intensity. Now comes the moment of truth, right there on that neon screen. The GOAT algorithm. But let me be clear. We are not here to crown a king. We are here to measure something far more interesting. Who broke their era's difficulty ceiling the most?
Exactly. To do that fairly, we keep 2 ledgers side by side. On the left, the conservative ledger, official competitive matches and widely standardized honors. On the right, the expanded ledger, context adjustments, match volume inflation, and historically disputed tours, kept visible but treated as higher uncertainty.
That way we don't erase history. and we don't let the fog of it break the model. Every legend gets scored across 5 categories, 0 to 10.
First, peak separation. How far ahead of your peers were you at your absolute best? Second, sustained dominance. How long you stayed elite. Third, biggest stage impact. Your imprint when the stakes hit maximum.
Fourth is two-way burden, the share of the attack you personally had to create and finish. And finally, environment adjustment, our era tax or era credit.
Now here's the secret. The GOAT isn't a single name. It's a function of what you value. So, preset 1, tournament peak prestige. When we weight World Cup peaks and carry jobs, the profile spikes for Pele and Maradona. Pele is the only player to win 3 World Cups, and Maradona's 1986 run, capped by the tournament's golden ball, is the kind of outlier that bends a model.
Now watch what happens when we switch the preset to club scoring supremacy.
Here, Cristiano Ronaldo surges. He owns the UEFA Champions League all-time scoring record, 140 goals. And he holds the men's international scoring record as well. The model rewards that kind of long-run, high-volume output.
Third preset, all-around supremacy, scoring, creation, and longevity, balanced.
This is where Lionel Messi often grades out highest. He has 8 Ballon d'Ors, and he's the only player to win the FIFA World Cup Golden Ball twice, in 2014 and 2022. In a balanced weighting, that blend of creation plus finishing is hard to match.
So, what's the final verdict? The algorithm outputs a tier list, not a single-file ranking. In the S tier, era-defining dominance, you see players who didn't just win, they changed what winning looked like. Pele, Maradona, Messi and Ronaldo all land here, but on different routes.
Pele cracked the environment. Maradona cracked the impossible. Ronaldo cracked the machine. And Messi? He cracked the whole shape of the game.
Because the GOAT isn't a person, it's a set of weights. Change what you value, and the throne moves. And the data stream isn't stopping. The finalissima is set for Friday, the 27th of March, 2026. Spain versus Argentina at Lusail Stadium. One more high-stakes sample. The equation's still being written.